Hey, this is Paul, and in this video, which I'm going to try to keep super short, I want to go over how to randomly, essentially how to assign random numbers to incidents. So specifically the use case here is that talking with an agency and they're doing some mobile integrated health stuff and the COVID-19 thing, and they want me to look at some data, and so they want to share some data with me, but and they want to do it fast, and they don't want to have to go through the process of getting a HIPAA use agreement and getting the attorneys to sign off on the fact that I'm cool to have this data, even though, it's continuous improvement stuff. There's certainly exemptions at this point for all kinds of things that need to happen in exigent circumstances, but just this could be a normal circumstance where you want to share some data with somebody and you want to de-identify it. So here we've got some fake patients with first names, last names, employers, addresses, city, county, state, zip code, social security number, and phone number. And then over here is some information about the call. And this could be patient data, and it's got maybe, vitals and meds and pre-existing conditions and initial impressions and all kinds of stuff on the provider side that you want to protect. So, but let's just say for now that all we want to protect is these values here. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this incident ID over here and we're going to replace it with a random number that cannot be pegged to that. So we're going to strip out the incident ID and we're going to replace it with a random number. But we're going to preserve the incident ID someplace else so that we can always audit back to it. So what we're going to do is we're going to insert a column here. And we'll just call this the rand ID. And so I'm going to use a formula called =, rand between. Put in a left parentheses. Got to spell it right or it doesn't work. Put in a left parentheses. I'm going to use the bottom number 1 and the top number 100 million. And so I get a random number between 1 and 100 million, and I autofill. And cool, so I got a bunch of numbers. Now, let's say I go up here and I do something, I call that rand IDs, and I hit enter. Well, all these things recalculate. So this formula is going to screw us up if we don't strip out the formula and just leave the values. So we're going to block the column and right-click and select copy, and then at B1 we're going to right-click and choose the paste special values function. And so that way, notice up here in the formula bar we've stripped out the formulas and now we just have these random IDs here. So I could get rid of this random number generator. The incident ID, and I could get rid of all this stuff, and now I just have this random ID, but I want to be able to audit back to this. So I'm going to show you how to audit back to that. But here's the random number. Now, let's say, for example, if you scroll down here, you see, like, for example, incident number 27. There's 3 patients on incident number 27. It was a rescue, so there was an extrication. So 3 patients. Maybe what I want is these are separate numbers now for each patient, but maybe I want a number that tracks back to the incident ID. So what I'm going to do is take the first patient number and make that the new incident ID. So I'm going to insert a column here, and I'm going to call this the random incident ID. In fact, the first one I'm going to change it to the random patient ID. So the way we're going to do this is the easiest if I scroll down here to show you the logic. If I go =, if, and I say if this incident number equals the incident number before it, then the random ID, patient ID, should be that. If it's a new incident number, then it should be that. Actually, let's amend that. If the incident number equals the one before it, then the random ID should be this one. If it's a new incident number, then it should be this one. And so let's autofill that down and see what happens. Notice we get 65, 318, 18, all 3 right there matching the first one. And then the next record matches that one. And so incident number 29 had apparently a bunch of common patients. So there we go. See, that works as well. So cool. So we can just autofill this up, and that formula works. So now we have a random incident ID and we have a random patient ID. And the first patient ID is the random incident ID. So we can see that here, right? Cool. So these things should also be saved. So we're just going to left click, right click and copy, and then right click and paste special as values. Okay, so awesome. Now, if I wanted to be able to look this stuff up somewhere else, like let's say the agency that I'm working with, they want to give me this information. So what they should do is they should probably, copy this sheet. So I just say, hey, let's right click and go move or copy. And computer's working slow today. Create a copy, and I'm just going to make a new book altogether. There's going to be a new file. I click OK, and lo and behold, now we have book 5. So it's a completely new file, right? And this is the one they're going to give me. So they're going to take out the random ID, and they're going to take out all this stuff here because they don't want me to have this. So they're going to block those columns, right click and delete, and those will go away. Now, there's a question here, and the question is, what if I'm super clever and I think that these are all in an order in which they occurred numerically, chronologically? And why wouldn't I? Because I've got this timestamp information over here. Well, I could, for example, order these incident numbers in ascending order, and now there's no way to know when they occurred because they were randomly assigned. Now they're in numeric order. Now there is a question, I suppose, and that question is, could somebody take this information over here and use it to trace back to here, and figure out who that patient was based on, and maybe I've got vitals and disposition and where they transported or not transported and so forth. So you could strip out at this information, but there's information here that you might care about, like the hour of the day and the day of the week and the month and so forth and the year. This stuff could be important. So you might want to throw in some year, month, weekday, hour type information, and then strip these out so that the user can't track back using the specific information to who the patient was based on time and date. So let's say, for example, I'm back in my sheet over here that we started with, and I've got this information, and since I'm the fire department, I'm going to keep this. There's no reason for me to get rid of this. I've got this information, but let's say there's a reason that I want to share the information, or I want to look it up, right? So what I could do is I could take the key, and here's what we're going to do. We're going to insert a column here, and we're going to drop the key in there. So the way we're going to do that, and we'll have to go back to this data. Notice that the key here, we're going to have to look up the random patient ID or the random incident ID, and I'm going to use the random patient ID to look up. And so what we're going to do is we're going to just type in the incident ID here. And what we want to do is we want to use a VLOOKUP function to go find it over in the original data set. So here's the original data set. But the thing is, the key is the random patient ID, and what we want to return is the incident ID. And the incident ID has to be to the right of the patient ID. So we're just going to insert a column here, go equal sign, click on the incident ID, and then fill that down. So here, we're just going to do a lookup between two files now, two independent files. I'm going to go =v lookup, left parentheses. I'm going to look up the random patient ID, comma, and I'm going to go over here to the de-identify sheet, and I'm going to say, hey, look it up here in this table where I create column number 1 and column number 2. Put in a comma, say, give me what's in column index number 2, which is the incident ID column, and comma, false. No guessing Excel if you don't find the right answer. And so there's the answer. So 373471 was incident number 57. So let's check that out. Copy that, and let's just go back over here to the de-identify, and we'll go in the Home tab, we'll go over to Find, put in Find, and paste that number in there, and Find Next, and there it is. Okay, and that's how this can work. So the lookup function is just how we audit the thing, how we go back and we rematch the incident IDs to the patient IDs. And the random number generator is how we create the random numbers in the first place. So hopefully that helped. Actually, this only takes like literally a couple of minutes if you're practiced at it. But if you're not practiced at it, then, it might take a couple of minutes, and you're not going to do it very often. So, the more you get comfortable with the random generator and copying and pasting specialist values, and, the lookup function, you'll use that again, just to audit back. So, thanks for watching. Hopefully this helped. And as always, don't hesitate to ask if you have questions.